Greetings. So the Resident Evil 4 Remake is finally upon us. After being ported to almost every console known to man, it finally makes its debut with a remake of its own. And fortunately for all of us, they knocked it out of the park. Just as they did with the RE2 remake, they recreated RE4 with such care and attention to detail that I'm still finding new things on like my 5th playthrough. The remake not only retains much of the charm of the original, but it also advanced the gameplay in ways that brought it up to modern standards. The story too has been recreated and made to flow more naturally and smoothly. But with all these changes, it still maintains its own identity and doesn't overshadow or overtake the original. It's a great up-to-date version of a game we all love. So let's take a look at the game and see if the Resident Evil 4 remake really deserves to be called a masterpiece like the original. First things first, this shit good. This game is fun. The smooth movement and the satisfying shooting mechanics just makes it really addicting. I mean, I played like 5 hours of the demo just because it was so fun to shoot things. Leon's movement is one of the biggest changes made from the original. The classic tank controls that Leon used to have are no more, and the gameplay itself is heavily altered as a result. You see, before, Leon's movement was really rigid and exact. There was only forward, backward, and turn. There was no such thing as walking to the side or moving diagonally. Leon moved just like a tank would, and that kind of movement is partly what made RE4 so fun because it was kind of janky and gamey in a way. Leon didn't even have momentum. He moved and stopped on a dime, and as a result, he didn't move like a normal person. So when someone's charging you, or throwing something at you, you can't easily dodge it like in the remake. You just got hit, or you had to shoot it out of the air. Sometimes you were forced to just catch a few because there was no way out. But the remake makes movement much more fluid and gives the player more freedom in how they move. Someone throws something at you? Well, just sidestep it. Consequently, this new movement also led me to shooting things out of the air less often, because there was no reason to. As I said, you can just sidestep it. Another thing they redid was our perspective as well. Now we can see a full 360 degrees around us. We can run around and still see what's going on behind us. It's not like before where we could only see what's dead ahead and to the sides a bit. And it's nice to be able to see behind you while you run away. However, I can't help but feel this makes engagements less scary. There was a real fear of running away from enemies and then turning around and them just being right in your face. This fear is all but removed in the remake thanks to these new movement and camera controls. For the most part, you have a better sense of what's going on around you in this game. Additionally, there is another aspect of movement that has been altered from the original, that being that you can now shoot and reload while moving. This is a big change because in the original, when you either shot at someone or reloaded, you had to commit to it. Aiming down your sights stopped you dead in your tracks, and thus you had to know if you were safe or you'd suffer getting grabbed or catching an axe to the face. And there was a time commitment that you had to give to reloading as well. And when you're fighting a bunch of enemies and you have to reload, it really created a terrifying dilemma. Either reload now and risk losing my head, or run away and risk running into more guys or even cornering myself. This made the reload speed upgrade a very attractive option for many players, since it lowered that sense of impending doom as you jammed more bullets into your gun. Unfortunately, these kind of experiences don't occur very much in the remake, since you never really stop moving during combat. You're able to dodge attacks while aiming and run around and reload to your heart's desire. You don't need to upgrade reload speed because you can just run away and give yourself as much time as you need. It's not an issue anymore. The change in how movement works changed the gameplay drastically, but not necessarily in a bad way. It's just different, and that's a good thing. The remake also added two really cool features to movement, that being the ability to sneak and a light stealth mechanic. Multiple sections in the game allow you to get the drop on enemies before they see you. Take the village for example. Before, you just kind of walked around or started shooting or bolted for the shotgun house. But now you can actually thin the herd and sneak into the village for extra supplies and money. And I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed the moments in the remake where you were able to get the drop on enemies for some insta-kills. It felt like a natural progression from before where you'd just shoot them from behind. It allows for more quiet moments that really enhance the experience overall. And just like the original RE4, many of the guns have their own different niches and playstyles. Each and every weapon has something special about them that separates them from the rest. The Punisher, for example, still has the ability to penetrate enemies, the Blacktail only takes up 4 slots now, and the Riot Gun has more range than any other shotgun. And the Starter Pistol and Punisher can have a laser sight to give you that classic experience. This kind of weapon design is awesome, because it gives every weapon a reason to be used. The Red 9 is just straight damage with no recoil if you got the stock. Punisher has penetrating bullets and a laser. And the crossbow has mines and infinite ammo, if you don't fucking miss all the time like someone I know. And every gun can be taken to the end of the game no problem. If you take a liking to the starter pistol, you can just continue to upgrade it and it will serve you well for the entire game. Obviously, there are better weapons like the Red 9 or the Blacktail, just like in the original, but they are by no means required to beat the game. Every gun has pros and cons, and the exclusive upgrades allow the guns to really lean into their niche. This allows for a lot of freedom in how you play the game. You want to play the whole game with the starter pistol? Sounds good. The thing's got a 5 times critical hit chance when it's fully upgraded, so you'll be popping heads more often. You want to play with the bolt action? Well, it becomes the most powerful sniper rifle in the game when fully upgraded. As I said, this style of weapon design is just awesome. You're not locked into using the better guns, and every weapon has its place and value. It lets you play the game how you want to play it, and it rewards you for doing that. Speaking of freedom and playing the game how you want to, you are now able to sell upgraded weapons and get 95% of the upgrade money back. Say you gave the Blacktail a 10,000 pesete to upgrade. When you sell, you will get 9,500 back from that upgrade. You won't lose all the money you put into it. This lets the player freely experiment with any of the guns they want, whenever they want. No longer are you locked into one weapon you committed to upgrading. If you feel like you've had enough of one gun, you can just sell it and only lose 5% of the money you spent upgrading it. You do, however, lose 50% of the gun's value the minute you buy it. The Blacktail, which is on sale for 24,000, will only sell for 12,000. So with that 10,000 pesete to upgrade I mentioned earlier, you will now be able to sell it back for 21,500. But with all the treasure you're going to find, it's not that big a deal anyway. One of the better additions to the game that has been carried over from RE2 is the crafting system. The system allows you to craft ammo and grenades out of gunpowder and scrap you find, and it gives the player even more freedom because it allows you to personalize how you approach combat. Prefer the shotgun like me? Craft shotgun shells. Maybe craft some flashes and run up and knife them. The system allows the player to be able to use whatever gun they desire whenever they want, and I think it's a good addition. I can see how some people may view it as overpowered because you can just keep making shotgun shells, for example, but I think you get just enough gunpowder and scrap that you're never just swimming in ammo. I was a little worried about it when I played the demo, but after playing so much, I can say that the crafting system is one of the better things about the remake. The game also adds the ability to parry attacks with your knife. When an enemy swings his axe at you or shoots an arrow at you, you're able to block it before it can damage you. It adds a new element to gameplay that not only fits Leon's new secret agent persona, but it also gives the player another way to dodge attacks. But let me tell you, this feature is straight up broken at times. You can just combo parries over and over again and just never take damage. This ability isn't totally broken, however, since your knife has durability, and if you parry too much, your knife will just break and you won't be able to do it anymore at all. Unless, of course, you're carrying around a spare knife, which is also another new addition to the game. Although these spare knives do have low durability, so their usefulness is kind of diminished. The parrying system is probably the best on professional difficulty, since you're only able to perform perfect parries, so your timing needs to be perfect to be able to pull it off. On professional difficulty, the parry is a strong tool, but it should only be used as a last resort, and that's how I feel the system should be all the time. One thing you can't block though are enemies that try to grab you or punch you, so even though most attacks can be blocked, you're still gonna catch a fist every once in a while, so keep that in mind. Leon's knife is also the same knife that Marvin gave him back in RE2. Remember the blue medallions at the beginning of the original, and then nothing like that showed up for the rest of the whole game? Yeah, well now quests like that are everywhere, and honestly I'm really happy about it. I think they offer a good distraction and break from normal gameplay. You're able to take a breather and shoot some medallions or throw an egg at Salazar's face. Some are kind of dumb, like kill rats, but others are really cool. Some lead the boss fights, and some even lead to areas that offer extra bits of lore. And when you turn in the quest, you're rewarded with spinos, which are now a special currency rather than a basic treasure like they were before. And speaking of spinos, the merchant also makes a return in the game, and he's just as cool as he was before.
Over here, stranger.
Who's that?
He offers almost all the same services that he did before. You can come to him to buy new weapons, upgrade those weapons, expand your attaché case, and sell all the treasures you find. But now he has a few more services to offer. Now he's able to repair your knife and body armor, he'll sell you special recipes for crafting, and even has special deals and sales for weapons and items throughout the game. And like I mentioned earlier, he will now give you 95% of your weapon's upgrade value back when you sell it to him. But the biggest change to the merchant has to be the new trade menu. Here you can trade spinos you've collected from quests or that you just found lying around for new weapons, treasure maps, and all sorts of other shit. The best thing out of this has to be the exclusive upgrade ticket, which allows you to instantly get the exclusive upgrade for free, and no matter how much the gun has been upgraded. However, I have a few problems with this change to the merchant. I really like the idea of the trade menu, but it feels kind of lacking in content sometimes. Like, why is 10 gunpowder for sale twice for 2 different prices? And the prices are just weirdly decided. Like a handgun for 5 spinels, but a laser sight for that handgun costs 10. Where did they get these numbers? It's a great feature, and it's not badly implemented, it's just kinda strangely implemented. But anyway, remember that shooting range where you could win little bottle caps that would say lines from the game?
Don't worry, Ashley. I'm coming for you.
Well, now it's been completely overhauled, and I gotta tell you, it's absolutely amazing. For some reason, it's also pirate themed, but I kinda like it. It's like a carnival game. The shooting range has multiple different games that you can play to win tokens. These tokens can then be brought over to this prize gumball machine to exchange for one random charm to attach to your attaché case. And each of the charms gives you different bonuses and buffs depending on the rarity. And since we're on this topic, the attaché case also has a few things different about it. Not only can those charms be attached, but there are also multiple different case types in the game. And each case allows for one item to be found more often in the world, as seen by this case icon next to an item when you pick it up. For example, the silver case makes handgun ammo spawn more frequently, and the gold case makes more money spawn. I don't think it's game breaking, but it just offers a little bit of extra personalization to your run. And if you don't care about the bonuses, it's nice to just have different colors of cases too. Just another thing that makes the game more fun. Alright, so finally I want to talk about the changes made to Ashley, because not only is she a much better character in the game, but she also plays much better as well. For one, she's much less annoying to babysit. Before, she would get in your way and stand too close to you and just generally be a nuisance. Now she even climbs down ladders and ledges by herself. And they also added a fuck off button to the game, so now you can make Ashley get the hell away from you during combat. And with that, she can't be shot by you anymore either, so you don't have to worry about her catching a stray bullet on accident. Unless she's being taken away, so watch your aim when that's happening. They also removed her health bar and replaced it with the incapacitated mechanic. If by chance she does get hit, she'll now go down and need to be picked up. If she gets hit while incapacitated though, she will die, but it's a much better system than this. Enemies also no longer just try to kill her anymore either, so all in all, Ashley in this game is so much better than she was in the original. I really like having her around now. Shifting gears, I want to take a moment to talk about the enemy design. Look at how much better they all look now. I mean, just look at the difference 18 years make. This guy looks scary, but this dude? This is the kind of guy that'll kill you in the woods. And thankfully all the old enemies return. RE4 just wouldn't be the same without the Chainsaw Man or the Blind Guy, so I'm glad that they made a spectacular return. Blind Guy's also looking a little extra beefy these days. And we have a few new additions like the broke neck plug and this cow guy, this cow head wearing guy. I don't know what to call them, they wear cow heads, what do you want from me? The broke neck plug in particular is a good new enemy because they add a new element to worry about during combat. If you're in a crazy situation, you kill an enemy, the ability for them to come back to life and sneak up on you adds a lot of tension to combat. And the new cow guy is just a fun enemy to fight. He's less deadly than the Chainsaw Man, and sometimes he can even be used to kill guys for you, but I think he fits the aesthetic of the village and offers a good new difficult enemy to face when you least expect it. His introduction was also pretty terrifying and unexpected. Anyway though, just like the original, the game packs in so many different varieties of enemies per area. This variety not only really makes every area feel unique, but it also helps stave off boredom or enemy fatigue. But what I think is great is that they all don't act like reskins of each other. For example, the villagers are stuck with dynamite and farming equipment, but the cultists on the other hand equip shields or headshot-proof masks to block shots. And the islanders have better shields and use RPGs and machine guns. One of the things I love the most about this remake is how they decided to change how some enemies function. For example, in the original RE4, the red cultists didn't do much, but in the remake they offer incredible buffs to cultists by automatically awakening their plaga. Additionally, another change I'm happy about is that the regenerators now run, and let me tell you, it's kinda terrifying. That was always one of my problems with RE4. The regenerators were scary, but they really didn't pose a threat because of how slow they were. You could just leisurely set up your rifle and take your time shooting them. But now, before you even get a chance to take out your rifle, they've bum rushed you and taken a chunk out of you. It makes shooting them in the legs essential to slowing them down. But even then, they still slither towards you and jump at you pretty fast. And they're naked and they got their asses hanging out and they're just nasty. The enemies though in general are also pretty dumb. Their AI is so bad at times that you can just run right past them and they don't even react to you. It's like you're not even there. No attempt to grab you or nothing. Others are good, like the blind guys. They react to almost any type of noise you make, like touching these dangling chains will alert them to your presence. But it's only sometimes. For the most part, the enemies are pretty good about attacking you and acting like they should. RE4 is also known for its unique bosses like El Gigante and the Big Cheese, and almost all of them return as well. The tongue guy is gone now, and honestly, good riddance. He kind of came out of nowhere and his maze just didn't make any sense. Good riddance, I say. But while some have stayed the exact same, like Del Lago, some have been redesigned and been made much better than they were before. For example, the Salazar boss fight now sees Ramon flying around the boss arena, instead of just remaining in the one spot for the whole fight. Not like any of us who played RE4 saw the rest of that fight, am I right? Krauser 2 has seen a design change. You see, back in the original RE4, Krauser could be easily defeated by the knife. So quickly, in fact, that the knife basically acted like a skip rather than just a weakness. Well, now he still seems to be weak to knives, but he is at least now a proper boss regardless of it. And the way that the boss is handled nowadays is so much better than it was before. I love that we actually have multiple knife fights with him. It not only ties into him and Leon's background together, but it's also a great use of the new knife and parrying mechanics. It's not just QTEs anymore, and I love that. In addition to changes to enemies and bosses, the game's levels and world have also been redesigned to freshen up the experience. Areas remain familiar but distinctly different from the originals. Take the first house for example. At the beginning it was light out and the first house was right in front of you, so you just walked up to it and that was about it. Maybe you shot one of the crows or something. Well, now it's dark out and the trek up to the house is not only longer but also far more jarring and hair-raising. You gotta trek through the trees, crows are cawing at you and there's fog all over the place. It's just off-putting. But even though it's so much different from the original, it still feels familiar, like you've been here before. And that's what's so great about the level design. This whole section before the village has been altered so much, but keeps some of the core elements from the original, like the house and the guy, this bridge, and even the one guy in the last house who's just standing there waiting for you. It all just feels familiar. Many areas have also been completely altered. An example of this is once Leon is captured by the Big Cheese, they now actually take all of your weapons, leaving you to go through the section with only knives. This not only makes sense because why would they not take all your shit in the first place, but it also allows the game to formally introduce the player to the new knife and stealth mechanics. But it's not just the village. The castle too has received some redesigns and a facelift. For example, the Ashley section has been completely redesigned. Not only is it now much longer than it was before, but it's also completely pitch black, and the knights now roam around and chase after you. And if you're a baby like me, this section can be pretty terrifying. However, as much as I love the changes made to the castle, I do miss the giant robot. It's still in the game, mind you, but with a very diminished role than before. The castle also does not have a giant room filled with lava anymore either. Another radical change made has been to the minecart level, and I don't know entirely how to feel about it. On one hand, it's much more exciting than it was before just cinematically, but on the other hand, its gameplay is kind of boring. The infinite ammo and lack of movement betrays how exciting and scary it could be back in the day. Before, you had to jump between cars as ganados and chainsaw men rained down on top of you. Its tight quarters gameplay made it very hectic and panic-inducing. And as a result, it was, fun. But now it's literally on rails, and there's no movement whatsoever. All you gotta do is shoot at some enemies from afar and make sure the cart doesn't tip over. Still found it fun though. Lastly, the island has also seen some major changes. But a spot that really got some love was the regenerator section. It was creepy before, don't get me wrong, but now they made it pitch black alongside locking you in small rooms with regenerators in there with you. The island also removed one of RE4's most iconic areas, that being the laser hallway. I'm not really saying it's missed or anything, because its existence didn't make any sense before, and it sure as hell wouldn't make any sense now. But for me, this room is kind of on par with the bingo line. It's just one of those things that made RE4, RE4, you know? When you get to this point, it's like, oh yeah, the laser room, I forgot this was here. But at the same time, it's so iconic to the game. So I don't know, I kind of miss it, I guess. Additionally, the section where Ashley drives a giant bulldozer has now been replaced by her using a giant wrecking ball instead.
You're serious?
And speaking of this section, this is a good opportunity to bring up how the level design creates opportunities for skips and exploits. In this section, for example, if you nade the wall where Ashley will hit with her ball a few times, it will break in only one hit. Not only is this just extremely cool and shows an incredible attention to detail on the developer's part, but it also allows for you to just skip this part entirely. It rewards the player for thinking outside the box. Another one that I know of is right here in the castle. Thanks to the real-time cutscene, if you toss a nade over here and blow up the cultist before he pulls the lever, you can just skip going down there and at the same time give yourself a huge advantage against the red cultist up there too. It's pretty fucking amazing and something you don't see very often in games. Alright, so, given how expansive the areas are, the game often encourages you to do some backtracking through areas you've already been. But it's not that bad because this gives players opportunities to get some extra rewards. Things like opening cabinets with small keys or going back to do a quest. But the game often surprises you with new enemies encounters and extra secrets. For example, during the night, if you head back to where Luis was tied up and explore some more, you can find the 2 dead hikers that were talked about and that we saw at the beginning of the game. And once you leave that area, you're greeted with a cutscene introducing the dog enemies for the first time. This makes backtracking feel like a natural part of the game. They knew you'd come back, so they made sure to leave some surprises for you on your second time. The world itself is also just packed with an immense amount of detail. Every area is filled with items and objects, so it really helps in immersing the player and selling the idea that this place is real. These places are unnerving and creepy. The amount of detail helps sell the environmental ambiance. And speaking of ambiance, the walk up to the house is extremely disconcerting with the fog, the crows, and the house looks like it could fall down any minute. And once you're finally in the house, the door slams behind you and you're forced down the long corridor. The game does a great job of putting you on edge. The sound design too aids in building this ambiance. For example, once you're in the house's basement, you can hear the door above you being opened and footsteps heading towards the staircase.
What was that?
That's pretty fucking terrifying. You know he's coming and you have nowhere to run.
No fucking way.
And the sound design is just great overall. Every weapon sounds powerful and loud. Leon and Ashley will also begin to breathe heavily after running around, though perhaps a little too much, I'd say. Even when it's far to change the footstep sounds, depending on what shoes Leon is wearing. The sounds the Ganados make is also something that makes the game great. They speak to themselves and taunt Leon, and they just give off this aura of craziness. The music too is something that has seen a huge improvement from the original. The music in the remake now adds to the emotion of the situation and works really well at setting the mood. Take a listen to the village music. It really screams, "I'm being chased by psycho murderers," doesn't it? This music is what I'd imagine a panic attack sounds like. The game also relies heavily on more dark ambient music to set the mood. All in all, the music hits all the right notes. Alright, I'll leave now. Once again, we find ourselves in the shoes of Leon S. Kennedy on his quest to kill literally everything and steal anything not nailed down. Oh, and also to save the president's daughter or something. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. Leon this time around, though, is clearly not happy with how his life's going. I mean, look at those eyes. Do those look like a happy man's eyes? You know, before I never had any thought as to how Leon was actually doing as a character. He gave us no real reason to think about it. He was just this badass action hero, and we all loved him for it.
Monsters. Guess after this, there'll be one less to worry about.
But this time around, we can really see the emotional impact the events of RE2 had on Leon. He says it himself in the first cutscene.
If I could just forget what happened that night. The pain. Even for a second. This time, it can be different. It has to.
Leon's now clearly depressed and suffering from survivor's guilt, and he commits himself to his missions as a way to make amends and cope with what happened in Raccoon City. This gives meaning to his character shift from the rookie cop to the badass secret agent that he is now. It feels like nothing can even faze the guy anymore. I mean, he survived a literal zombie outbreak, so it's no surprise he mocks the monsters he's facing.
Guess your tap dancing days are over.
The guy's got a one-liner or quip built in for almost any situation. He'll blow a guy in half and then just say, "Next."
Next.
Like it's nothing. It's utterly ridiculous and hilarious at the same time. I'd say Leon now has even more cheesy lines than he did in the original.
Hola, Luis here. You guys still around?
Well, I wanted to go home, but Ashley just had to see this castle first.
And yes, as I'm sure everyone has pointed out by now, he does say the line.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Oh, Mr. Kennedy, you entertain me.
Ashley's character has also undergone some major changes. Her dialogue now is very well written and delivered, and her character is a good parallel to Leon. Where Leon is confident and brave, Ashley is just absolutely terrified. As she should be. Any normal person would be. However, that fear of her leads her into her arc for the game. As the game progresses, she demonstrates a desire to be more like Leon and less afraid of what is happening.
I won't run. Wait for me, Leon.
This desire gives way to her gameplay segment and her overcoming her fear and saving Leon. She wants to be less of a damsel and more of a partner to him, someone that he can count on.
Hey, we're a team, right?
There's a time where she even seems to be having fun.
Maybe someday I'll become an agent like you. What do you think? We could protect the U.S. from any and all threats.
Is that right?
Ada is back, and her role in the story isn't much different than it was in the original. However, she does no longer take the Amber from Leon at gunpoint, and she even offers to take him with her.
Bride's here. You coming?
She seems to also have some morals, since at the end she outright refuses to give Wesker the Amber and betrays him immediately, which is a good change from the original. Perhaps we'll see a new version of Resident Evil 5 in the future, maybe. Maybe? Also, many people have pointed out that her voice performance isn't amazing, but I'll be honest, I don't really notice it. She sounded fine to me for the entire thing. Luis's role in the story has been slightly altered as well. He now has a clearer connection with Ada to secure his own way out of here, and he even partners up with Leon down in the mines, so now when you fight both El Gigante, he's there with you. And many of his scenes have also been redesigned, and he generally just fits better in the story. I don't have much to say about Salazar since he's basically the same as he was in the original. If anything, I think he may be worse since scenes like these are gone.
Prepared a special ritual for you.
We are treated though to Leon just straight up shooting him in the face though.
You talk too much.
Failed! You vulgar, utterly uncivilized mongrel!
Sadler, however, now seems much more deeply rooted in his role as the cult leader.
I am Osman Sadler, the speaker for our Lord.
Tell someone who gives a shit.
In the original, he clearly seems to just be using the cult as a way to empower and enrich himself. But now it's clear that he's either being influenced by the Plaga, or that he just actually worships them as gods. He refers to Leon and Ashley as lost lambs, he references his lord all the time, and during the final battle he's heard spouting cultish nonsense at Leon. So I think he's a believer in this one. The biggest change to the villains, however, has to be to Krauser. In the original, Krauser was just some guy that showed up and he knew Leon and that was about it. But luckily in the remake, some more information is given to us about his motivations and his relationship to Leon. We can even see Krauser training him in the first cutscene. And even though he's antagonistic towards Leon, he still respects him and thinks highly of him. Maybe there's even a hint of jealousy in there. Anyway though, the story itself is now written a lot better with dialogue and characters acting more natural. I mean, just look at Ashley here. Her reaction to the situation is a lot more understandable than it was in the original.
Wait!
You alright?
I'm fine! Leave me alone!
Ashley, wait!
Additionally, a lot of the same shit happens as in the original, but now it all flows a lot better and tends to make more sense. Like at the beginning, Leon now speaks some Spanish to the guy. I didn't think about it before, but why the hell is Leon speaking English to this Spanish hillbilly? The hell's wrong with him? Doesn't make any damn sense.
¿Qué
Sorry to have bothered you.
The story this time around tries very hard to emotionally invest you in the characters. You start to feel for them in a way that you didn't in the original. Another great example of this is Luis's death. In the original, Luis didn't have much of a role other than him being the guy that gives you the medicine, so his death didn't mean much to us.
Louis!
But in the remake, his character has been given more depth and screen time. We begin to learn more about him and his motivations for helping you, and just when we think we're going to team up with him permanently, he fucking dies! Luis's death before wasn't as sad as it was shocking, but him dying now comes at the worst point and actually made me kinda sad.
You know, I led a pretty shitty life.
But as much as the story has been changed to be sad and serious, it is still very campy.
Obey. Obey the voice of our Lord.
Just like in the original, at times it's so over the top that it's just hilarious. It's that campiness that gave RE4 so much of its character after all, so I'm glad they didn't get rid of it. Overall, I think the story in the remake is better written and flows much better than the original. And the changes to the characters to make them more natural and real feeling also really added to my enjoyment of the story. Rarely do games meet expectations, and even more rarely do they far surpass them. The Resident Evil 4 remake is truly a shining example of what a good remake needs to be. It took its original source material and transformed and improved upon it in almost all areas it possibly could, from the story to the gameplay to the world itself. After being ported around so many times, Resident Evil 4 deserved a great remake just like RE2 got, and my god, they delivered. They delivered to us a game that looks amazing, was incredibly addicting and fun to play, and had an interesting story to boot. It was an incredible experience, and I think it's safe to say that the Resident Evil 4 remake is one of those few games that is truly worthy of being called a masterpiece. And after 18 long years, I'm just incredibly happy that Resident Evil 4 got the love it deserved.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?